my pleasure to introduce our corporate, our Coffee with a Corporate um, featured person is Amber Lawhorn of Jackson Health System. And Amber and I have known each other for a couple of years now, and Jackson Health System is definitely a big key player in South Florida. And we are so glad that you're able to participate on this call, Amber.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I won't take time to read Amber's very, very impressive bio. It's on our website, and you probably received it in the notes that went out this morning. So I'll just go right in and ask you, Amber, tell us how long you've been in supplier diversity and why you're so passionate about it.
Okay, I've been in this space for 8 going on 9 years now, and I am extremely passionate about supplier diversity because I get to directly impact communities of people that look like me. Every day, I'm assisting business owners and I'm a Miami girl. I'm born and raised in Miami. So I talk to vendors every day, all day, that I can directly tie back to my communities. So that's really exciting for me. It really drives everything that I do in working to impact diverse suppliers. And I also understand the impact that diverse suppliers have on their own communities. We hire people that look like us. So when we're doing business with women-owned businesses, we know that they are also employing women from their own communities. So that trickle-down effect is also a huge driver in the work that I do every day.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what's the process for becoming a supplier with Jackson Health System?
Okay, becoming a supplier with Jackson is very easy. In our case, we have an e-procurement portal, and we invite any vendor interested in doing business with Jackson to register in that portal. I'll put it in the chat shortly, but it's www.jacksonsupplierportal.org.
Mhm.
www.jacksonsupplierportal.org. That's the way that we advertise our competitive opportunities. So if vendors are interested in doing business with us, they just need to register in that system. It's free, and it sends you an automatic notification when opportunities become available.
Beautiful. And do you have to re-enter your information on an annual basis, or is it just a once and done?
So our system is a little bit different than other organizations, especially healthcare organizations. Our e-procurement website is totally separate from all of our other systems. So once you register in that system, there's no re-registration requirement as long as the information remains current. Of course, we always encourage vendors to use an email address that more than one person has access to, just in case somebody has to leave the company. Because if that information needs to be changed, the company itself needs to proactively go in there and do that.
Mhm. Okay, great. And you know we're an organization that promotes certification, right? And based on what you said and what we know about you, certification is important to you. But can you tell us why you think certification is important, and which certifications do you recognize?
Okay, certification is important because you set yourself apart from other businesses in the industry. When the industry is looking to impact certain communities, it's hard for an organization to do that if they don't have the resources to verify the information that's being provided to them. Certification gives us that security. We have our trusted certifying partners. We know that they go through extensive efforts to verify that if someone is saying, I'm from this demographic or I'm from this particular community, then that information is factual. They go through great lengths. So that definitely gives us security that if we're looking to impact specific, groups of people through our purchasing practices, that those people are the people that are being reached. And also, it just gives you a competitive advantage. It's really a selling point for your company if you get certified. Um, one of my favorite things to do is interact with people that come to the table ready to tell us about their certifications. Because one, it shows me that you take your business seriously. It shows me that you are serious about pursuing business and that you are arming yourself with all of the resources that are available to really make your business attractive.
Mhm.
As far as what certifications we accept, so Jackson is very unique compared to other organizations. We are an agency of our local county government, which is Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County is in the news these days. Um, but we were actually restricted legally from having a program that acknowledges race or gender. Our program is race and gender neutral. Based on these legal restrictions, unfortunately, there's no workaround for us at this time, but we are engaged in collecting data from all of our vendors to support a disparity study that would help us to implement a program that acknowledges race and gender in our purchasing practices. So those certifications right now, we're not able to accept those for the specific contract measures that we put in place, but definitely they will come in handy as we collect demographic information and as we move into a demographic-based program.
Mhm, mhm. And thanks for that update on this mandate. But that aside, say a few words, if you would, Amber, about the importance of having more than one certification, because we always try to tell our members that that's important and that our corporate partners really look at that in high regard.
So, and I'm glad that you posed that question. We are legally restricted from acknowledging specific certifications, but again, we're required to collect the demographics of the vendors that we do business with. So, multiple certifications for different categories really helps us because if we all depended on one specific category of certification, then we wouldn't really be able to display, well, maybe this other particular group is not being utilized at this time. We really need the data and the backup to support the disparities that we know are happening in our contracting practices. But again, we need that backup. So the various certifications really help us from that perspective. But as we look at the conversations in society today and the level of focus on the various disparities that are occurring throughout different communities, that is even more reason to get multiple certifications. You can be a minority owned business that's also a woman owned business. There is a huge push. I mean, this summer alone, so many corporations have launched programs targeting very specific communities. We send out resources to our vendor database on the different programs. So I see them, with my own eyes, but there's entire communities focused, entire organizations focused on resources for woman-owned businesses, entire organizations focused on Black-owned businesses, on Hispanic-owned businesses, on now Native American-owned businesses. You're hearing a lot about that as well. So there's true value in multiple certifications. And even though Jackson doesn't, accept anything outside of our county certification, I see vendors with multiple certifications, and they're really leveraging those with different clients in an amazing way.
Mhm, mhm. And we also like to tell our members, Amber, that the good news is WeBank, the certification we promote, is probably best in class. And if you
Mhm.
can get through the WeBank certification and you've got all your documents and all your I's dotted and your T's crossed, these other certifications, you just use the same information, right? So another certification that has been in the news and that is welcome by major corporations is veteran-owned businesses, right? So anybody out there who is a family member of a veteran or a veteran herself, you can apply to be a veteran-owned business, and we encourage you to do that. Okay, so what's the best way to get noticed by your team, Amber? I'm sure you get a lot of applications, you get a lot of phone calls, you see a lot of people, but yeah, what's the best way to get
The
noticed?
best way for us is the networking opportunities. Even in this age of you know, virtual outreach, still putting a face to the name is the best way to get in front of potential clients. We receive millions of emails a year, thousands of phone calls, but really it's the people that we actually can put a face to the name, or at least a voice to the name, that really stand out. And that requires persistence and that requires patience. Um, I can't tell you how many emails I'm receiving right now as I'm on this webinar. So I'm gonna log off, I'm gonna log on to my email, and I have to pick and choose which ones I can get to at the moment. So if you sent me an email today, you can't assume, that I heard from you and that's it. You're gonna have to follow up if you're really serious about doing business with customers. So really just trying to get on the phone, or at least the networking opportunities that organizations provide, that's really a good place to outreach to potential customers. You'll be surprised how many. I was surprised to hear about the Medtronic Spotlight, because that's a global company. So the idea that they're really trying to reach down into vendor communities is an outstanding opportunity. You can't take for granted that everybody is logging on. So I'm just not, I'm going to skip this one. You would be surprised how many people actually participate in these opportunities. Sometimes you're getting really good face time with your potential customers, especially on webinars where you don't have to leave the house, you don't have to leave your office, you just log on and participate. You're going to get that face time with those companies. So the networking opportunities are for me the best way.
And to expand on that a little bit, we always tell our members that they should have a top-notch capability statement, right? So can you say a few words about what you like to see in a capability statement? And is that a really good way to reach out to you?
That's a great question. The benefit for me of a capability statement is it's your entire website condensed into one piece of information. So I get to see everything that you do. What's really important for me in terms of a capability statement is contact information. You want to have that displayed prominently, but also tell us what you do. I can't tell you how many capability statements I've received, and they don't clearly outline what the vendor performs. So clearly tell us what you do. Sometimes it's layman's terms. If we look, it's just like a resume. If it's too flowery, we may not realize exactly what you do, or if it's too vague, then there may be an opportunity that we don't apply to your company because we think it's outside of your scope. So just being really clear about what you do and good contact information.
And do you like to see who some other customers of theirs are? Do you like to see other logos and other information like that?
I think that's a very creative way to tell us about the capability of your company. Ironically, before this call, I was on a vendor's website and they had a section. I had to navigate to it, but I did because that was something that I was interested in. Who else have they worked with? And I actually saw some similar organizations, and it made me feel more comfortable about doing business with them. So I think that is a very creative way of expressing your capability.
And we always also suggest to our members that when you're building a relationship, you want to take advantage of technology, right? So you want to reach out to the corporate representative on LinkedIn and say, I attended this webinar, you gave some great information. I'd like to connect with you. That's a great way to get connected, right? Another great way is to join the groups that Jackson Health System is a part of, right? Go on to their website, onto their LinkedIn page and see who do they follow, and then comment on their postings. And it doesn't have to be a deluge, but every once in a while, just comment. And we tell people all the time, Amber, you don't have to write a thesis when you're commenting on someone's post. You could just say, what a great article. Here are 3 things I took away from the article, and I am sharing this to my network. And, you know, people who read that get very impressed by that. And that's a really good way to set yourself apart as you're building this relationship. Another way that we tell our members to get noticed is to put like a follow-up on a schedule, right? So I send you a note and I say, thank you for participating on the WBEC Florida window. I learned a lot of information. Here's my capability statement. I'm interested in doing business with Jackson Health System. And then, you know, maybe a month later, you know, I was thinking about you, and then I read an article, or I saw this, or I saw that, and then just send your information again. There's a fine line between being persistent and being a pest, right? And we don't want to get into that pest part of that line. But there are very creative ways that you can get noticed and get recognized. And when you set yourself apart with your capability statement, by your certifications and all those things are what Amber is looking for. So I really encourage you all to pay close attention to everything that she's been saying.
And thank you, Nancy, for pointing out that fine line. That's very important. We're all busy, but you don't want to be too squeaky, because people will stop listening to the squeaky wheel. But also, psychologically, I was giggling to myself, because psychologically, that follow-up, when you have that email trail that shows me, you know, I'm following up and I see the email from before, from, you know, 2 weeks before, then it's a little more accountability for me. I need to make this a priority to respond to that vendor. So scheduled follow-up even is very important.
Beautiful. Okay, now let's talk about opportunities. What opportunities are there currently at Jackson Health, and what do you see kind of like, you know, in the next 6 months to a year?
Okay, that's a tough question for us. With the environment today, we don't know what's coming down the pike, so it's kind of hard. It's been hard for us to be consistent with preparing for the future, but we're doing the best we can. Briefly, I saw a flash of someone that's in the employee benefit space, and we actually have a third-party workers' compensation program competitive solicitation. It's an RFP, and that is on our website. So that's directly related to employee benefits and the management of all of those for Jackson. So that's out on the street right now. I believe it's due on November 13th. So the way to find out more information about that is on the jacksonsupplierportal.org. We also have just released a toxicology laboratory services. So we need a lab to perform toxicology services for our employees, as well as Miami-Dade County employees. We have lumped that all into one contract. So if anyone is in that space or related services space, that is also on the street. And I believe that closes November 18th. Outside of our system-wide contracts, we have been involved in a capital program for 5 years now. We have about 2 years remaining, and that is $2 billion worth of effort to update and build new facilities, update our existing facilities, build new facilities. We've been investing heavily in new technology and equipment. So that has really been an opportunity for new vendors to come in and work with Jackson. And we've seen some success there. And again, that's going on for 2 more years. So that's where we are today.
And what about second tier opportunities, especially in the building construction industry? How can someone get involved in your second tier opportunities?
Okay, our second tier opportunities, really a lot of the work is contracted out, but as new smaller projects come on board, the way to find out is when we release the solicitation. Really, you know, it's going to be the prime that we hire. And when we hire these primes, we have them do outreach events and networking opportunities for subs, interested subcontractors to come and learn more about the projects and how they can get connected to those.
Mhm. And I think we can't really stress that enough, right? It's all about building a relationship because people do business with people they know, they like, and they trust. And so when you see these bid opportunities, consider, even if you're a small fish in the pond and you can't handle a prime contract, go to the bidding conference, go and introduce yourself, because as Amber just said, the primes are encouraged to work with subcontractors and with diverse vendors. So you definitely want to position yourself as a second tier, sometimes even a third tier contractor. And the best way to do that is to build that relationship, right? To say, I'm here, I'm available, here are my qualifications. I've done second tier contracting for XYZ Corporation. I know how to do whatever, right? So it's really a matter of building those relationships, not only with the supplier diversity managers and the supplier diversity team at Jackson Health System, but also with their primes, because that's where you're going to make those contacts.
And if I may, that's something that we have built into our solicitation language. Even though we can't necessarily give a contract preference or measure based on demographics, we do have very specific language in our solicitations that let vendors know that if you're intending to propose to us for this service or this product, we expect you to bring a team that's reflective of our local community in all ways. So, if they're interested in doing business with Jackson, they have to show us that they're also committed to making sure that our communities are impacted. Mm-hmm. And we are very, we put very strong language in our contracts, and we make it very clear that we expect them to contract with vendors that can reflect the communities that we operate in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And to learn about those different opportunities, again, tell us your e-procurement portal so people can go and register, and Amber said, and pay close attention to this, use an email that is going to be around even if the person's email or that person is no longer with your organization, right? So can you give us that portal, and can one of my team members put it in the chat?
Okay, www.jacksonsupplierportal.org. Okay. www.jacksonsupplierportal.org.
Beautiful, thank you. And then finally, Amber, give us an example of a successful supplier. Did they pivot their business? How did they keep in contact with you?
Okay, so a very recent example, we have a vendor that we've done business with for a few years, and they're in a very, very niche specific implant product space. That was their line of business. As COVID, came on board, they were not in the PPE business. And it is a tough business to be in, especially as a result of something like COVID, where everybody tried to jump in. And by the time most people got what they needed, our needs had already been met above and beyond, and we didn't need it anymore. But this particular vendor, they did take the chance to pivot into the PPE space because of their implant. They had unique relationships with suppliers from those same areas where PPE is manufactured. So they were able to get PPE and those type of products faster than some of the PPE companies, and get it to Jackson when we needed it. So they have pivoted into this space, and they're now sourcing very hard to find products. So products that the industry is short on right now, they are able to get because of those relationships. And I thought that was very smart of them to do. You may be in a space where you're doing business, but you're able to leverage some of the relationships you have to do a different type of business. And, they always say there's room for everyone. So in this case, like I said, for those people that were trying to jump into PPE, it was a little, some of them, it didn't work out, because by the time they had what we needed, it wasn't needed anymore. But if you have relationships that can help you, that you can leverage to get what everybody is looking for right now, take advantage of those.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. That brings up a really good point about strategic alliances, right? How important it is, as women business owners, as we are in this incredible network that we call the sisterhood of women-owned businesses, that you look beyond today and start creating some strategic alliances. Right. So how do you view strategic alliances, Amber? What is it that you like to see in a strategic alliance?
I like to see a strategic alliance that is not necessarily built on what can you do for me right now, but just having the right people around you. And I've seen some people be really successful just making connections, because you never know when it will come. When that time will come where you need that connection. So they didn't base their relationship on a transaction. They just wanted to get to know this person or establish a relationship with someone else that was successful in business, or someone else, or someone from a different industry, just to learn more about a different industry. So I really respect that, when people are establishing relationships that are not transactional. You really just want to establish a relationship with somebody. I find that those are the relationships that really come in clutch when the opportunities present themselves down the line.
So it's kind of like when we tell you that the time to build a relationship with a banker is before you need a loan, right?
Yes,
So the
yes.
time to build a strategic relationship or strategic alliance is before you actually need that strategic alliance. So within our WeBank network, within our WeBank Florida network, we've got so many women that are open to this idea of strategic alliances because we can't do it all ourselves, right? And if this pandemic has taught us anything, it's that we need to rely on each other, and we need to do that in a way that is intentional and strategic. Um, so I would like to, open it up now for questions. I think you gave us a lot of really great information, Amber. And let's just see if any of my team members saw any questions, or if they themselves have any questions that we can ask Amber. Do you have a couple more minutes to stay with us?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Nancy, I'd like to ask the question when Amber mentioned what are some of the hard to find products right now that you're looking for? What would be examples of some of those hard to find products?
Uh, it really is a day-to-day basis. We can be fully stocked, but if there's a spike and all of a sudden now we're out of product, for example, lab coats, and this is not an isolation gown. A lab coat is, the person working in a lab inside of our facility, they have a coat that's disposable. And what I found out from the industry when we went to go look for those coats, because we ran out, we went to look for the coats, and one of the vendors said, well, that coat is hard to find because the material used for that coat is also used for hand wipes. So, with everything being difficult to get now, if it's being used for multiple purposes now, it's just out of circulation. And unfortunately, we don't know that until we get into the bind. We get into the bind because the industry is saying we don't have it. So it's really hard to predict right now what those spaces are. But I mean, most recently, lab coats has been very difficult, but we have found suppliers that are able to meet the need. We're just connecting with them now.
Well, and that brings up a really good point, Amber, right? One of the programs that we're going to be working on next year, and I'll just kind of give a little bit of a preview, is this program called Mothers of Invention, right? So we have so many of our members who own patents. We've got members who've invented new products, and we want to be able to showcase that. So we're developing this program that we will launch in 2021. But this brings to mind, okay, so you produce lab coats, right? Or you produce XYZ, but you really have to know your industry, right? You have to know that that material in those lab coats that you produce is being used in something else that is, in high demand right now. what other kind of material could you use, right? How can you innovate what you already have today to possibly meet the needs for 6 months from now or a year from now? And those are the types of things that I'll bet you Amber would be interested in knowing, right? When you're doing the follow-up with Amber to say, I'm in this industry and this is what we're producing, but you know what? I see in the future that this might be where this industry is going, and I'm positioning my company with strategic alliances to be able to meet those needs. And we just want you to know that, Amber. We want you to know that when you need something that is related to this, I've got a group that can supply you.
That's an amazing strategy for sustainability going forward. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Great. Great. Any other questions?
I have a question, Amber. So I'm recently been doing this study training program to build confidence, and to then in turn share, you know, what I've learned. And on the last video I watched, it was saying that, you know, empathy and kindness are the new business skills, the new hard business skills to master, where before they used to be the soft skills. So I'm wondering from your perspective on that, you know, everyone needs technology. So yes, once everyone has the technology, then, you know, you need to have the empathy and the kindness to follow that to kind of stand apart, I would think. But I'm wondering from your perspective what you think about that.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. That those previously, you know, those skills that previously were almost looked down upon in business, you know, are becoming more important than ever. Each day we're living through a pandemic, you know, and trying to function, doing our best. And, you know, we really need to just be applauded for showing up on some days at this point, especially with a future that's so uncertain. So, you know, for me in business, that is key. And I will say that the vendor community has been really amazing from that perspective. You know, when I speak with vendors, they say, I know we're all going through X, Y, and Z, or I can only imagine with you working at a healthcare system. Because in the beginning, it was really interesting. The first 2 weeks of the pandemic, I was getting calls and, you know, I was getting vendors that would say, well, I was supposed to have an appointment this week with you, or I called you last week and, you know, you didn't return my call. And that's, you know, and I'm like, you realize we're moving into quarantine. You know, we're a healthcare system, we're trying to take care of people, we're getting cases of an illness we're not familiar with, you know. So in the beginning, that was, I think a lot of people struggle with that. But more recently, it's really becoming a regular part of conversation. And I think that you know, from a supplier relationship perspective, really, you feel a stronger connection to suppliers to take that stand. And I think that people are being kinder to each other in the ways that we deal with each other in business. So I appreciate those skills coming to the forefront.
So do you think like in an email, you know, if you're mentioning something like that, that would stand out as an introductory, you know, an introduction email?
Yes.
Rather than just, you know.
Yeah. Yes, we're not in business as usual.
Right.
So if we're approached that way, then it, you know, you don't feel that someone is genuinely trying to establish a relationship, you know. And we can say so much that, you know, everybody should be very straight and narrow in business, but Nancy, you said it best: know, like, and trust. So if people don't like you or don't like your tone, you know, they're not going to fight for you, you know, for those business opportunities that may come up. So that is definitely a great approach to take.
And that reminds me that I wanted to ask you the question about the difference between your team and the actual procurement team. So I know in some corporations they're one and the same, in some corporations they're separate. Sometimes the supplier diversity side is kind of looked at like the gatekeepers, and we want to say, no, they're your cheerleaders. You want to get to know Amber, because she has her pulse on with the procurement team. So can you say a few words about that?
Okay, I'll definitely say to take advantage of your internal advocates, and your supplier diversity professionals are your internal advocates. We understand how the operations go. So when you speak to us, we're trying to figure out where you can plug into that process. I will say our procurement team, we are all competition advocates. We are all hearing about our supplier diversity efforts every day. We had a call this morning as a team, to discuss it. So for our procurement department, it's a very important topic, and they are bought into what we need to do to make sure that diverse suppliers are being included in our procurement operations. But I will say that if I hear from a vendor and I send that information over to procurement, it would get more attention, than a vendor contacting procurement on their own, because they know that I'm going to take some kind of effort. They trust that I will take some kind of effort to, one, vet the product or the service, and the viability of the vendor, but also that they can trust that this is a diverse supplier when they get it, from myself and my team.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, Amber, you have given us a ton of really great information. Any last minute, anything that you want to share, any last minute information?
I'm really excited. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity to participate. I actually saw the email, for a previous month, and I thought it was a great opportunity to speak with woman-owned businesses. So thank you very much for allowing me to participate and allowing Jackson to be represented here. And we are every day looking for woman-owned businesses to participate in our procurement activities. So if you are interested in doing business with Jackson, please register in our portal. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my information in the chat if given a chance. And, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you
all.
very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
That wraps up our day today. So we thank everyone for being with us.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Amber. Bye.
Bye.